Well, hey folks, this is Amanda Suffolk, and you are listening to the Armed Society podcast. And the one strange thing that's happening this week is that we have no Paul Lathrop. So it is girl trainer after girl trainer after girl trainer all on the screen talking guns and women and the Second Amendment. So welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for
having us. Thing I'd like to do, great. First thing I'd like to do is I'd like to kind of go around and introduce everybody. As you know, I am Amanda Suffolk from the Eye on the Target Radio and the Polite Society podcast. But off to my, I don't know which direction because of the camera thing, off to my side is Judy Wells. So hey, Judy, step up, introduce yourself and tell folks where they can find you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Judy Wells, as it says on the screen. I am a co-host with Tatiana Whitlock on Responsibly Armed Radio. You can listen to us once a month on a Sunday, and you can get to our website at responsiblyarmedradio.com. That will direct you to all of our live shows as well as podcasts. I'm also a proud facilitator of a Girl and a Gun, very active, very busy chapter, except for now during COVID, in San Diego, California. And I train many, many women, and I'm so excited for this show. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, well, thanks for coming along. So now right below her is Donna Anthony. So Donna, introduce yourself.
Hi, well, thank you for having me. Donna Anthony, I'm from Alaska. I'm actually podcasting from Alaska. I am born and raised here in Alaska and retired law enforcement, got into line of duty back in 2012. And next thing you know, I'm out teaching women firearms training. So I own Point Blank Farms and self-defense training. I travel throughout Alaska and nationally. I do things with the well-armed woman. I love Girl and a Gun. And I've been a guest speaker for the last 5 years with USCCA.
How cool. And then off to her side is Shelly Hill. So Shell, do your stuff.
Hey guys. My name is Shelly Hill. Thank you so much for having me. Me and my husband are the Complete Combatant, and we are a training facility out in North Metro Atlanta area. I am also the creator of image-based decisional drills, which we'll probably talk about later, and Smart Choices, which we may get into as well. But I also host the Mingle, which is a weekend event in May for professional ladies in the firearms industry. So that's what I do. We travel and teach courses at our range in Atlanta. And that's pretty much what we do, is the Complete Combatant. Get it? Get it?
Got it.
So, I have to say that the first time I heard the Complete Combatant, I'm like so spelling challenged that I'm like combatant. Wait, combat. Oh wait, how? I give up. Right? I give up. So somebody said one time, "Oh, it's so hard to pick a company name," and it really is, because then you will be spelling it forever and ever after that.
And we named it the Complete Combatant, and then a friend of ours said, "Oh, the Complete Combat Ant." Hence,
boom,
our logo. That's where it came
You
from.
now have it. Yeah, you now have a logo that goes with it. There, that makes a lot of sense. We're now the giant ant.
Yeah.
So I invited you guys on so we could talk about women and training women and teaching women and being a woman in the industry, those kinds of things, because I think that in a lot of cases we still have the whole stereotype that gun owners are big burly men with a beard and a plaid shirt. And I don't think I see not one beard and one plaid shirt anywhere in this mix. So Judy, how did you get into teaching and training and being involved with the you're with a Girl and a Gun, right?
I am, and I have a little bit of a different story. I was dragged kicking and screaming into the firearm world. I did not, I live in California, in Southern California. I have nobody in my family that's in the military. My father's Canadian. I've spent half my life up there. I never had seen a gun or touched a gun until my husband decided that he was going to get a gun. And I said, no, you're not. He said, yes, I am. And we don't say no to each other. So I thought, okay, if I'm going to have a firearm in the house, I better figure out what to do when it jumps out of the safe and shoots me by itself, because we all know that's going to happen, right? So I went to the range and found an instructor and cried for the first 2 months. I hated it. I didn't want anything to do with it. I thought it was terrible and violent and awful, and I just thought it was a terrible thing. And then he introduced me to the Winchester Qual, which I think most people know is it's a challenge of that you can build your skills incrementally. And of course, as soon as someone tells me I can't do something, well, forget it. So I got hooked, and my journey was amazing. And I started a little tiny club at my range for older women because I was scared to go alone, called Girls and Guns, and did that for about 4 or 5 months. And then I somehow found a girl and a gun, which I don't remember now quite what that journey was. And I went to their conference, and one thing after another. And who knew that I would be training hundreds and hundreds of women and have a radio show, and this would be my passion. I honestly don't know how I got here. And it's what I do now. I love it. My thing is training women. I usually don't work with men unless they show up and have to be part of, our group for one reason or another. The men at my range wear our little girl and a gun name badges with the diamonds on them because they love us so much. So that's been my journey. And then the way I got into the radio show is Tatiana was out here teaching one evening, one weekend actually, and she stayed at my home, and we were sitting on the roof deck talking about all these things. And I said to her, everybody should hear what we're talking about, because she was talking about how she would do things if someone came into her house. And I was saying, I can't even see without my glasses on. How am I supposed to do that? And then we thought, everybody should hear this. Everyone should hear what we're talking about. And so that's how the radio show was born, really. We decided that we would seek experts out across the country and ask some questions that I wanted to know the answer to. Like, how are you prepared for an active shooter event? How do you help your mom and dad that are 90 be prepared for a home invasion? All those things that we talk about, over a glass of wine or at a girl and a gun, that everybody should hear about. So that's kind of my story in a 2-minute nutshell.
How cool. How absolutely cool. So she goes from crying to this is her passion. They don't call them gun dealers for nothing. It's kind of like...
I know. It's addiction. It was an addiction. I really was addicted.
Well,
That's great.
Exactly. That's it. You can't have just one.
No.
Yeah, exactly. So Donna, tell us your journey. How did you get to where you are?
So I'll actually give you the full story. So I've never touched a gun, born and raised here in Alaska, and something traumatic happened in my life where a 6-year-old little girl ran into the road, and I hit her, and she ended up dying. So this was very traumatic, and I didn't want to waste this little girl's life. So I went to Houston, just left everything I have here in Alaska. I'm going to go to college. Went to Houston. Next thing you know, I'm going through the police academy. Never saw it coming. And during the police academy, back then we had revolvers. And, there's only 3 women, and the rest were probably maybe 35 men in our class. And they give us a revolver, and we are shooting. And I just remember I'm looking down the line. I'm like, because they really didn't explain anything like we do now, how we teach, right? But this was back in 95. And we're pointing downrange, and I'm just pulling the trigger. I'm afraid of the gun because they really haven't made me comfortable with it, but somehow I qualified. And then they let you take the gun home, and I take the revolver and I put it next to my bed. I wasn't comfortable. And here they are issuing me a handgun. After I was done with the academy, I realized I didn't like Texas. Sorry if anyone lives there. It was just too hot during the academy. And I went to Ohio, and I got on, my family had some family in Ohio, and I got on with the sheriff's department in Ohio. And immediately they issued me a semi-automatic. Nobody trained me on a semi-automatic, but they gave me one, right? This is really sad for law enforcement back in these days. And they give you a key and a map, and here's your gun. Peace out. Don't get in any trouble, right? So when we do our qualifications, again, I would take the gun out and I'd point and kind of shoot. I don't even think I ever found the front sight. Nobody really explained any of that to me. But I'm carrying a gun for about 3 years, which is kind of embarrassing to say that. But hey, I qualified every year. I'm not sure how that happened. Then I came back home to Alaska, and I got on with a great department, and the standards were so high because in Alaska, we don't have the backup like you do in most agencies. So we're more tactically trained. So I got some better training, and I realized I really needed some help. And the officers, being the only female, right? I'm the only female with the police department. I was the only female when I was in the drug task force. But these men were trying to help me shoot better. And I'll get back to that. So I eventually practiced on my own because I wasn't really getting how they were trying to teach me, you know, how men and women and that whole situation of trying to take in what they're telling you and how to retain it. So from there, I went to the drug unit, and then I went to tactical training, DEA training. I went to all this tactical stuff. So now I'm a badass, right? That's what you think? You're a badass. And I was way better than I was years ago. But when I got injured in line of duty, I was 6 years undercover. I broke my back, had to have major back surgery. And after I recovered, I couldn't be a police officer anymore because of the damage from my back and the atrophy in my leg. I started having trooper wives saying, "Hey, will you teach me to shoot?" And I'm like, okay. So I start Googling, you know, how to be an instructor, looking for women's stuff. And this was back in 2013. And there wasn't anything out there except for at the time it was the well-armed woman. And you have to remember, the only female with Palmer PD, the only female in the statewide drug task force traveling all over undercover. And then I signed up with the well-armed woman. It's their second class ever, and it's for the NRA training. So, you know, I want to get that certification. I flew down to Texas, and it was a culture shock for me. Being trained with men, I walked in there. I love Carrie Lightfoot. And I walked in, and I sat down. Next thing you know, you had purple donuts. Everyone's all huggy and lovey and purple. I'm like, what did I just sign up for? I didn't know what was going to happen. But I have to say it was the best experience because I got to listen to women, the struggles they were going through, because in law enforcement, we don't talk about it. If you're female, you don't say you're struggling. You don't get the additional help. It's different now than how it used to be. And then as I continue with my training with the well-armed woman, bringing it back to Alaska, opening my own business, I'm also an instructor with Frontsight. I learned so much more after being retired in law enforcement that now I own my own company, getting ready to open up a shooting range. I travel nationally. I'm a guest speaker for the Well-Armed Woman, USCCA, and a couple other, and the Women's International Police. It was amazing to be around, you know, all these different countries and being the top female firearms instructor, teaching them force on force, you know, simulator training. Whoever thought that would ever happen with my experience? But I took all the issues I had and I learned to become a better instructor for women, and I wanted to pass it on because that was missing. So that's how I got into this whole thing with guns.
That's amazing. That is an amazing
They
story.
gave me a gun back in them days. Yeah.
They're like, here, have a gun.
Yeah. Thank God I didn't have to use it back then. But you know, come up here in Alaska.
Exactly.
So.
Shelley's like, right, this is it. Boom, have a gun.
Yeah. Here's your key. Here's your map. We didn't have the iPhones back then. You know, telling you how to get somewhere. So.
Right. None of that. Here,
Remember
read a
those
map,
days?
and then turn the map. Right.
Yeah. Come home, take the gun off, slowly lay it down by your bed, right? Because you weren't too comfortable.
Exactly. Okay, Shelley, we're going to ask you the same question.
Hi again. First of all, great stories and great intro, I guess would be it, from you guys. I'm not sure mine is as exciting as y'all's. My first gun was a revolver, and it was, here, little lady, right? And it was a .357, and I didn't even know that you could put 38s in it. It was a snub nose hammerless little lady. So that's what I was given when I was 21 years old. Needless to say, I shot it maybe a total of 10 times. Scared me absolutely to death because I thought there was an explosion going off, and it sat in my drawer for years. And then the good stuff happened. And that would be Brian Hill, my husband. And he introduced me to a side of firearms that I didn't even know was out there. So about 2011 is when I started concealed carry. And I have been taking classes and just furthering my own education, and just kind of moving on from there. You have a couple different firearms that you like, and then I find something that I would like more or that fits me better. And I've been kind of on the lucky side that the people I have been surrounded in my path or my journey, whichever you want to call it, in this firearms world, industry, community, have been very forgiving and have let me make my own decisions, but have yet stopped me if I was going down a rabbit hole that may not have been so beneficial for me. So I've been very lucky to be surrounded by people that were absolutely smarter than me to help me along the way. So there is a big thank you to my husband. So now, several years later, I've gotten some instructor certifications underneath my belt, and I love to teach the newer students in our entry-level pistol essentials, but I also like the students that are kind of in the middle of their journey, because there's always something that you can learn from your students. So I know we say that we are always a student ourselves, but I truly believe that, and I know that the four ladies that are here are constantly educating themselves. So pretty much what I did was just start down that path of educating myself so I could be a better teacher and better learner myself. And here I am now in 2021, and I'm currently enrolled in the Active Self-Protection Instructor Certification. That's a 6-month course. It's pretty heavy duty, so I'm doing that. And then in February, I go to Modern Samurai Project, which Scott Genelinsky, Red Dot guy, and will be one of the first, if I pass, so I'm holding myself to task, one of the first female Red Dot non-Leo instructors out there. So that's kind of exciting. So that's kind of where I'm at with things right now.
I'll tell you, I fangirl watching Shelly. She does time drills of getting her gun and getting it out in action, and she's quick. We'll just say quick. The rest of us are going, wait, what's happening? And she's on it, right? It's pretty amazing. So let me tell you quickly my backstory, because mine's a little different. I was raised by a gun collector. My mother taught hunter safety. One of my earliest memories of my grandfather was either him having us take turns running his reloader in reloading shotgun shells, or carrying a pillowcase and picking up wads on the range before they sold wads commercially. You could reload only if you picked them up and then washed them in a wash machine. And so he gave us all pillowcases and sent us out. And his words were, "We're shorter, so it was easier for us to pick them up." And so that's how I was raised. And then I married a car guy, and I probably didn't touch a gun I had one at the house, but it's on a shelf, it's put away. And it wasn't until about 2003 that I had a major career change. And my brother, you've all seen him, you've all heard him. He's a guy who learned how to read, literally learned how to read, reading the Dixie Gunworks catalog and carrying it around and reading us ballistics. But he said that if he got to do anything that he wanted to do at all in the world, it would to open a firearms training school. And I told him he was out of his mind. And so I sat down and wrote a business plan to prove that he couldn't do it. And the next thing I know, we were in business. And from there, we opened a training school. We had like a dozen instructors who were all teaching Ohio concealed carry. We opened a gun shop. We were doing that. and then we started down the radio show path. And so it's kind of been this weird little journey that wasn't actually planned at all. And so I tell folks I'm an accidental activist, and part of it comes from just learning how to share the message and learning how to share it with people. So, okay, so let's go on to the next topic, which is, let's go around the loop again and give advice on teaching men how to teach women. If you could tell them one thing as to how do you train a woman to shoot. So when you're a big burly guy, and how do you teach a woman to shoot, and what do you do? What's different? Or what's the same? One of those. Judy, you go first.
Well, I don't know if this is exact answer to your question, but I will tell you that in one of my holster classes, one of the male instructors at my range came in, and I had like 16 women lined up, the typical dry fire instruction for holster, and he wanted to jump in the class. And I told him he could only jump in the class if he put something in his shirt to simulate having breasts, right? And he did. And we had him put 2 rolls of toilet paper. I don't even know. But he was absolutely stunned after he got out of that class and told me he had no idea that having, something on top would completely change how you run your holster, how you stand, how you move your arms, where you put your arms when you're teaching holster safety. Everything changed for him. And he's been teaching for years and years and years. So that's one of my stories about how I always tell men, there's a lot of things that are the same. But when you tell women just to bend over, and lean forward or whatever, they're not going to hear what you think they're hearing. We hear things differently. Our body is built differently. And I know they know that cognitively, but I don't think they really understand what it feels like to be shooting in a woman's body and to be told something that doesn't really feel right, like lean over. Well, sorry, it feels different for us than it does for you to lean over. So I always make the men that are instructors do that. And it gives them a whole new world of a viewpoint. Does that happen for anyone else when you're teaching men, or that you would tell men that?
I've never thought to go the boob route, but it's pretty entertaining.
I'm telling you, it was an aha moment. He told all the other 4 male instructors at the range, they all wanted to do the whole thing, and they all had a huge aha moment.
It's like, okay, you have to come with a bra, guys. You have to come with a bra.
Well, he said, literally, I can't even see my holster. Well, yeah.
I would love to do that with my officers and see how they respond.
Right? Isn't that a great idea?
It's a thing.
Can't
I
even
have
see my
a picture
holster.
of it.
Yep. Right, because
So-
if you give him an opportunity to have boobs, he's going to pick the 44 double Ds anyhow, right?
Right. And that's what we put on him, because I want him to have the experience. You think that what teaching women's the same? It's so not. There's so many, the emotional, the cognitive, everything is so different. The way we communicate, yeah.
All that.
I mean, I
Okay,
think
Donna?
Sure.
Oops.
So
Toss them.
I think the issue with my experience of never knowing what we were supposed to do is they never gave me the whys we are doing what we're doing. The key word is explaining to the women why we do what we do. And I'll give you a good example. I don't know if you guys know Vicki Farnham. She's phenomenal. And she's got a book on how to train women. So if you haven't read her book, buy the book by Vicki Farnham. But she gives a good example. Women are taught differently. We need to know who, what, when, where, and we need the whys. And she gave an example. If we're in a conference room and there's a table that needs to be moved, if she pointed to the boys and said, hey, I need this table moved over there, what would the boys do? They just probably go over there, move the table, and put chairs around it, and they wouldn't ask any questions, right? But if you ask a group of women, I want you to put the table and chairs over there. What do women do? Well, where do you want it? How do you want it? I mean, you got to give women that. So I think the main thing is if you're a male instructor, you have to explain to the women why we do the grip, why we put our finger, the trigger right in the middle of the finger. Explain the why so we understand it, and so we're not afraid of the gun and understanding how it functions for us. So that's just my opinion.
That is absolutely a great one. So, okay, tossing it to Shelley.
Yeah, that's a really good question. As a matter of fact, I actually, write down my notes here. I think women follow directions differently. And I think that's what we all just touched base on. I think that we ask, like Donna just said, we ask more questions. I'm not saying we're more direct, but we certainly ask more of the hows and the whys. And I think that we need, women need maybe a little bit more time. So if you have a block of instruction and you have a group of men and you give yourself 30 minutes, you may want 45 minutes because you've got to not be short with your answers. You've got to make sure that you do understand that we are going to ask possibly more. I'm not saying we necessarily learn differently, but we certainly, and once again, this is my opinion only, that break down what you want, your commands in smaller sections. Because what I see is give the direction, but don't go from here to here. Go to here, we got it. Go to here, we got it. And let us kind of work our way through it. And more times than not, because the way that we do take direction a little differently, I think that we'll get to point A to Z. Maybe it might take a little longer only because we're asking more questions as far as the hows and the whys and everything. But yeah, I think that it's just a different type of, just a different type of the way that we learn sometimes. At least that's what I've found.
Okay, well, that makes sense. What you just said. Go ahead. Like I said, when I went to the academy, they're like, just do it. They don't explain it, just do it. Now you look at training nationally, not only do they explain, demonstrate, and show us, and there's PowerPoint now, there's videos, so we get the aha moment. We actually completely understand it all.
That's right. It doesn't just go from this is what you need to do, and that's what I expect to see. Because then you're just like, and I guess it could be for everybody, but men are more inclined to go, all right, I'll give it a shot, where I'm going to go, now wait a minute. Where are we at? What are we doing? Round count. Tell me again what my goal is. All that kind of good stuff. Are you going to give me the commands to go to low ready? Am I supposed to holster on my own? I want to know what all that is. So that may be what makes us a little bit different on the line. Maybe.
Well, I think we want to know what to anticipate or what to expect. Rob and I took a class one time. It was a 40-hour class, and it was taught by a retired police officer. And he wanted us to shoot from the combat crouch position. So everybody was like, oh, okay. And so I get up and I start to do it. I was like, okay, so I have a question. Where do I put my butt? And he's like, what do you mean? Where do you put your butt? I was like, well, do I put my butt with my center of gravity over my heels? Is my center of gravity back? Where's my weight? What am I doing? How am I doing this? Because all of that kind of matters to me as to what those pieces are. Well, he was so dumbfounded that he told me to just go sit down because he couldn't tell me where to put my butt, right? He didn't know because he'd never asked that question, never thought it through, none of those kinds of things. Yep. And it's like, okay, we care about balance. And women are so much more susceptible to balance than men are. And let me tell you a motorcycle riding story. When I first learned how to ride a motorcycle, I got off the motorcycle and I'm like, what do you guys do about the hand cramps? And they're like, we don't have hand cramps. And I'd get off and my hands would cramp, my arms would hurt. And I realized that women don't have the upper body strength that men do. We carry all of our weight at the hip. So we carry a lot of our strength at the waist and at the hip. And so when I learned to ride my motorcycle by shifting my weight on my seat, all of that went away in my hands. But until then, I was trying to muscle everything with muscles that are like Chicken Little. Right. So it wasn't working. And so I think that's part of it is that when I tell in a class that I'm teaching that women and men are different. It's because we've got curves, we've got shape, we don't have the strength, and so we've got to figure out leverage and force and different things in a way that men don't, because they're just so much stronger.
I also think that a lot of times I'm really mindful of the fact that we need to tell women to get out of their own way, right? So men will come in and they'll be just picking up the gun and shoot it or whatever. But I feel a lot of times a big part of my instruction, besides, like Shelley was saying, I break things down into tiny chunks, tiny, teeny chunks, is to help them understand they have permission to do this big, powerful thing. They need to get out of their own ways and be with it. And I had one woman call me when she got home one day, and she told me that she got in the car. She had never fired a gun before that night. And she got in her car and she was so excited and felt so strong that she literally had to calm herself down because she was what do they call it? Foot to the metal or whatever. When you're going really fast.
Pedal to the metal, yeah.
Pedal to the metal. She was driving home like, I got this, I'm so good. And I feel like a lot of our instruction as women instructors is, you got this. Yeah, it's a big old gigantic explosion 2 feet in front of your face. Yeah, you're going to be all freaked out because there's a big old explosion. But it's just that. And I feel like a lot of our teaching for me in my world in California, SoCal especially, is get out of your own way. You got this, girl. And it's being a cheerleader. Whereas I don't see that happening in classes with men, whether it's ego or the way they think or whatever. I don't know. They don't really seem to need that cheerleader thing or that encouragement, encouragement.
And you were also talking about, how heavy the gun can be after a while. Women aren't strong with the upper body, like you were talking about your motorcycle situation. And for women who have a hard time holding their gun for a long period of time, what we used to do is put your thumbs together, put your arms completely out, and keep your arms out. I don't know if you can see me here, but you keep your arms up and keep them, walk around the house like that. Build that strength in your arms. So those are little things you can do for women to build that strength for the upper body.
Oh, that's a great one. I've not heard that. I tell them to get silly putty, 2 eggs of silly putty. So $2 worth of Walmart silly putty makes all the hand strength difference.
Yeah.
Plus you can
put your hands together all the way out and walk around and keep your arms up as long as you possibly can, and that'll start building some strength.
Wow. Okay, Shelley, you got any other pointer?
I never really, honestly, I'm just kind of listening at this point. I never really thought about increasing upper body strength to hold a firearm. I just really didn't. I'm just actually just being a listener at this point. We talk about stance and a foundation and planting your feet and how to possibly set you up for the best success for managing recoil and so on and so forth. But I think I maybe look at things more as just the person, not necessarily male, female. As far as how that goes, I really never thought of the difference in upper body strength. I mean, I know I think about, rack and the slide and grip strength and stuff, but right now I'm just a fly on the wall. This is good stuff. So go on. Keep going.
Do you teach natural point of aim? Shell, do you teach natural point of aim to people or not?
Yeah, we do. We maybe more so in our rifle classes, but absolutely there is a time and a place for natural point of aim with that. Absolutely, closing the eyes and seeing where things go is important, and especially with the red dot. Since I've started down that journey in the last year plus, the aiming on that one as far as covering up the window of the dot, so you can, obviously not stare at the dot, but actually look at the target. So that would be another type of natural point of aim, I guess, in a sense. So yeah, we do talk about that.
Okay.
And I'll add some more.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I just want to add, because she was talking about balance, and here's a good point with the balance. range training is great for beginners, but after a while, range training can get you killed. So you have to get your students ready that, yeah, they've got their stance and their grip and everything looks great, but you got to be able to move. So balance and movement needs to flow together too, because you're not going to just stand there and make sure you got a perfect stance before you get into a shooting situation. So you want your students to have the basic foundation, and then from there, they need to continue to move on and the shoot move as well. So range training is okay, but what I see on the range is I see people shoot, and what do? They drop their muzzle. That's bad training. That's going to get you killed. So it needs to be up, drop a little, start scanning, looking for your threat, back up on your threat quickly. Don't drop that muzzle. So baby steps and building their skills up.
No, I think that's a very good point. What is it? We've got a little feedback. I don't know where that's coming from. So I think that's a good point. We teach a natural point of aim with an instinctive shooting that goes with it, so that you practice with something. And I know that they sell these like little rubber somethings that you can throw out if you've got a 180-degree range, and it's like a rubber ball that you can shoot and it'll bounce around. But we're somewhat a little more rural, and so we just use a pop can. And but so you shoot it and it jumps, and then you shoot it and it jumps, and you shoot it and it jumps. And so can you, without using your sights, can you hit it? Can you hit it? Can you hit it? And that's one of the things, knowing where your gun shoots when it's in your hand. And so practicing, it starts with natural point of aim so that you're comfortable with your gun, and then you start to work from there. Anything on that?
And that's I think it's important to do that, but it's when you start getting to reality-based force-on-force training, when you're up and close under stress, you're going to do that point of aim. It's just going to happen. You're looking at your target and you're firing, but the farther you get back, then you're going to start looking for your front sight. But when you're up close and personal and you've got stress, you need to start training in that situation as well.
Mm-hmm. Indeed.
I had an instructor once who had me practice. When I was talking about stance, he made me do like 10 different stances to show me that I could have my students shoot from not perfect stances and they would all be just perfectly fine. And it was a really good lesson, like sitting from a picnic bench, standing on one leg, like doing all this crazy stuff that before that I'd been into the whole, we got to do a stance like this. And it was pretty enlightening. It was enlightening.
I think stance has a value when a shooter is brand new, absolutely brand new, and then that eliminates all of that out of the mix. And then as they get better, then from the waist down, it doesn't matter what happens. And so, so it's kind of
favors movement.
Yeah. So let's go. We were having a conversation before we went on the air, and we were talking about glasses, because I am of a certain age. We won't say what age that is. And my glasses are over here because I can't see the computer with my glasses on. And so I'm working with my eye doctor. And so I went in and I'm telling my eye doctor that I need to have my glasses tuned to the front sight. And he just looks at me like I just said I rode in on a unicorn, right? So have you guys had any experiences like that? So let's start with Judy again.
I actually have a huge experience with that, and I wear 2 contacts at different distances that your brain gets used to. One of them is for my front sight. My dominant eye is exactly at my front sight distance. And when I first approached my optometrist and we talked about this, he actually, in Southern California, shocker, had me bring in my firearm, and he worked with me and figured it out because he was really interested in tuning my eyesight to be where it needed to be for my particular sport. And he now sees all my girls, and we're just really lucky that we have somebody in San Diego who's willing to work with us. And he's so cute because he always says to me, do you have your piece with you? Like I'm some kind of police officer or something. But he really did help me. Yeah, we're having a big delay here. Sorry. He really did help me figure out, and now I wear my contacts every day because your brain gets used to it's called monaural vision, I think, and I have these special contacts that allows me to be able to go and use my front sight and then function in the rest of my life. I think everyone should have an optometrist like that. So I don't know if anyone has asked their optometrist to work with them and sent their girls to them or not?
So Shelley?
Have you? Or
No, I
am
just learned from
going
Judy.
Yeah.
I was just reading what looked like Karen. Is there any way to bring that question back up? But Karen Farthing just said something about, as it went through, about having to sacrifice. Here it is. Doc told I was willing. I was willing to sacrifice. I told the doc some vision either on either end to get me seeing clearly from front sight to about 15 yards. So apparently she talked to her doc, and the doc said I could get you from here to here. So I think that's interesting.
Yeah. So I have one close up tuned to my front sight,
Right.
and I have one distance. It's amazing.
Okay.
I don't think I could shoot any other way because I'm of a certain age, as Amanda is, whatever that age is.
Yeah, I'm just a certain age. Whatever that age is.
Yeah.
That's my age now.
Me too.
Right. So I have to tell you, I've got Shelley's on, and Shelley has something that she wants to tell us about the mingle. But I want to tell you guys about the mingle a little bit because I think this is cool. And then after Shelley gives her news, we'll talk about where else cool you guys have gone or going. But last year, I think it was last year, Shelley does this challenge for people coming to the mingle that if they can videotape themselves on their way into the mingle, documenting it on the way there, what they're doing there on their way home. And Beth Alcazar came, and she and her girls were in the car doing a sing-along, and they did this whole video thing, and I was like, right, it was. And I'm like, okay, she's got nothing on me. So I reached out and said, I'm going to the mingle, and I'm riding my motorcycle. So who's coming with me? And so we are going to start a biker girl gang that we're picking up people on the way. And we're riding from Ohio down into Bluegrass, Kentucky, and around and into Atlanta. So if we don't do well with the videotaping and the little infomercials on the way, then I flunked selfie school and social media school, something like that.
I can't wait.
What is the mingle?
So tell folks about the mingle. Tell folks about the mingle.
Excellent. The Mingle is an annual training event. It's in usually May of each year, and it's where we invite women in the firearms industry. The spectrum is very large, and we invite you to come to our range in Dahlonega for 2 days, Saturday and Sunday, and we have guest instructors and presenters. And the focus of this is about continuing education for ladies in the firearms industry and networking. So on day one, which is Saturday of May this year, which is on 22 and 23, our guest presenter is Stephanie Widener. And she is a very, very wonderful, bright lady, and proud to call her my friend. And she is coming, and she will be presenting about an hour and a half on topics of lessons learned that they've learned through active self-protection. She is the CEO there. And it's about what they have seen over and over again, that they can pass these lessons on to us. So she's going to be doing that. And then on Sunday, we have, of course, our blocks of instruction. We're on the range from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. So it's a long day. It's a good day. And she will be also the guest instructor that day. And she'll be, of course, doing whatever block she wanted to do that focuses on what she thinks is important. And it's going to be, first shot and then how to practice at home. So that's super exciting. And then we have volunteers, range safety officers and AIs come in from all over the country, and I mean all over the country, to volunteer their time to come in and help. And the ladies themselves are also from all over the country. Like, Amanda, when did you come? You came to the second or third one? What was it? You came because you stayed with us here. So probably, I was going to say, it might have been the second one, and this is our fifth year.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
So
it's growing. We've got Hawaii and South Dakota, and we've got just, I mean, we're just sprinkled all over of ladies coming in. It's really fun. But I wanted to announce something kind of special that no one knows yet, but I wanted to
so she's
announce it here
doing
live.
the breakout here with us. Breaking news, breaking news.
So, as I said, Stephanie is the XO CEO of Active Self Protection, and she works with a team of absolutely outstanding individuals. And John Correa is kind of the team leader of Active Self Protection, and you would see him on YouTube and so on and so forth. But they've also got an excellent training company. And John Correa and Neil Widener are coming to be our volunteers this year. And they are traveling from South Dakota and from Arizona just to come in for the weekend to help us out. And that is a huge honor. We've also got Ronnie Dodd, which is another absolute legend in the firearms community. And he is coming for the first time this year to volunteer his time to come help us out. So our volunteers are pretty cool. But I just thought it was very cool that not just Stephanie of Active Self Protection, but so is Soleil, and so is Shannon, and so is John, and so is Neil. The whole team is coming to show respect, and they're coming from all over the country. So that is cool. So all the ladies that ever wanted to go to John Correa's class, you'll be able to meet him in person, and that's a pretty cool treat to meet the whole team at one spot. So I'm excited about that. So thank you for letting me share that information with you guys tonight.
Oh, I think it's great. So you still have spots at the training that are open, right?
I
So
do.
if people want to join our biker girls and become part of that, just let us know.
Yeah, what you need to do is there are some requirements. Obviously, there's certain standards that they have to meet for day two, because it's not a beginner's thing. So in the industry, we go ahead and they'll email me. You can just go to the complete combatant at gmail.com and just email me, let me know what you do in the firearms industry. And day one is 100% sponsored, and that's 9 a.m. to 6. And we'll have, I don't know, I think it's 26 or 27 HK VP9s that will be there for us to all shoot for a couple hours in a wonderful block. So it's a really fun day, but there's no charge for that, and we invite anybody in the industry. But as far as day two goes, kind of got to know what's going on there, because that is going to be 3 or 4 different blocks of instruction, and it's not for the beginner. So contact me if you're interested. Like I said, it's a wide range on ladies in the industry, and we would love to have you. So email me first, and then I'll get you an invite out there.
I think that's pretty cool. So let's play off of that and talk about continuing education. So what is either the last class that you've taken or the next one you're going to for continuing education? Because I think that that's so critical, that if we think we know it all, we've got a dumbass as a teacher, because that would be us. So oh wait, did I say that out loud? Oops, there. So Judy,
you are your first student.
Exactly. Okay, Judy, I'm tossing it to you.
So I'm trying to think here. My last class I think I did was my USCCA instructor class, which is probably a couple months ago. We're all shut down out here, so there's nothing up and coming that I have planned. I actually had to shut my chapter down last night, which was, I had 40 women coming on Thursday night, beginning brand new shooters, so I'm super sad about that. My next class that I think I have scheduled is conference, a Girl and a Gun conference, but past that, I've just been waiting to see if we can even fly. Being out here, the sad thing about being in California, other than I live at the beach in San Diego, so it's beautiful, is that all the really remarkable things, like the Mingle, are across the country. So anything I go to is like a situation. I have to fly hours to get to anything really great. So I don't have anything other than conference on my agenda at the moment. But so I will. As soon as things open up, I'll be out there.
Okay. Donna.
Well, I normally do a tour every year. It got canceled because of COVID last year, but hopefully this year it's still a go. I'm in Florida starting in February. I'm at the Well on Woman conference. I'm teaching gun-toting mamas drawing from the purse. We've got a new course for that. I'll be actually new course that I'm going to take. I'm going to be a student. It's going to be the DC project at Ambassador Academy.
Ambassador,
you know about that, Amanda?
You will love
Okay,
it.
so
I'm telling
excited,
you, I'm
something new.
going. I went, and I'm going to go back because I think that you can't absorb it enough.
Yes.
You cannot absorb. Yeah.
Right. But, I travel. I'm getting ready to do active shooter training. I do a lot of force on force and simulator. But the newest fun thing I just recently did was with Amanda, and that was in Texas. I've never done 3-gun. Law enforcement all the way, and I'm having so much fun that I'm going to go back in Georgia, and I'm doing another 3-gun. I'm going to meet Lori Bodwell down there. And I'm doing the academy training. So I'm going to have some fun to be a student since everything's kind of almost canceled and no one can buy any ammo anymore. So.
That's good. That's good. Those are good things. Shelley, how about you? You're going
Donna,
through
what
the
part-
active self-protection
Okay.
training, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Quick question, Donna. Where in Atlanta are you going to be?
You would ask me that.
Sorry.
I have to look at
Get
my.
back to me.
Yeah, so it's in Georgia. I'll get with you, and then I'm at the
Get back to
USCCA conference for Tennessee, so I'm at that one if we have it.
Excellent.
So we don't know what we're doing.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, get back to me on that if you're in the Atlanta area. Yeah, right now I pretty much already, let the cat out of the bag on that one. Is that, yeah, I'm in the middle of the active self-protection instructor certification. That's super cool. And then a couple weeks moving forward as far as with trying to meet some standards for that red dot to be an instructor there. The mingle, obviously we try to do some, get some good education there, but we do travel quite a bit. I know that, let me think here. In September, we'll be with the Active Self-Protection National Conference out in Kansas. So that'll be another type of thing. And then Gabe, I'll be training with Gabe White, I think in November. So not too much traveling, and we'll see if all of that actually happens, right? Because obviously we don't know from day to day or month to month, but that's we'll see what happens. But right now, in stone is the Nashville with Jedi, so I know that's going to happen. Everything else, you can only hope. It's on the schedule.
Exactly. That's it. So I am going to South Dakota and taking the Masad Ayub Mag 40 class. And so I have not taken one of his classes, and so I definitely don't want to miss that opportunity. And so I had an opportunity, so that I'm pretty excited about that. So I've got the mingle and the day of training there with whichever amazing instructors Shelley pops into the range and tells me that I get those guys. And then I got the Masad Ayub. And then I think that we are going to, in September, go to Manhattan, Kansas also. So we've been talking to Neil Widener potentially about heading to Manhattan, Kansas. And so either doing something with the radio or teaching some of the instinctive shooting stuff at the range. And so that's still a conversation, but my hope is we can teach a segment and then we can take all the rest of them so that you can kind of get a little bit of all of that, because I love it. Even when somebody's doing some conferencey thing, it's like, well, okay, I don't have anything in this segment. Let me go be an RSO for somebody because I want to see what they do. I want to watch how they teach. Because you learn so much just from all of the different pieces of what somebody does, that there's always a takeaway or two from it. Sort of like I'm taking away Judy Wells's you've got to wear boobs if you want to learn how to do this.
That's a
moment.
I love it.
It worked.
I think it's perfect. Yeah. So one of the things that went flying by was somebody said that they have a boob shirt that they make the male instructors wear. So they've actually made a shirt for it, and I think that is I just can't imagine seeing Rob Campbell because the shape that he is, because he's like a pear on two sticks, right? I mean, he has legs that are about this big around. I just can't imagine setting him up, but he would be a sport. We were doing a whole drill lately about learning how to draw from a holster and shoot from a holster and stuff. So here he is on the range with his purse, and so he's doing the purse training. And I know that Shelley was working with Claude one time on purse shooting and purse training and stuff. So Donna, I'm going to toss this back to you. What is the one, if you could give people a snippet of your drawing from a purse or purse carry, what would it be?
So there's a funny video that's out there with gun tote mamas, because I've never done that. And I have to say, drawing from purse is an advanced course. You need to make sure you have the strap stable, right? You don't want to muzzle yourself. So the main thing is making sure you have the zippers in place where you want them, so you can do a quick draw, stabilize the strap, and being able to do the draw and then quickly do the 5-step presentation out. So you need to practice doing that. Do it with a blue gun first.
Okay, got it. So what is the one thing that you guys teach or do that as you teach it, people say, I didn't think of that, or the aha. And I'm going to go first because mine is when I'm teaching women, we're so visual. We all try to figure out how to do things and make it comfortable and familiar. So I equate a lot of ammo things to food. So I tell them how a rim fire works and how a center fire works. By a rim fire is a cheese in the crust pizza, and they have to get to the cheese. They can immediately visualize that. And that center fire it's a Reese's cup in there, and you got to get to the peanut butter, right? And then somebody said, well, how come sometimes when I pull the trigger on a 22, it doesn't always go off? And I said, that's because it's a dollar store pizza, and there's not any cheese in that bite. Just turn it and hit it again.
So much to take away from this. This is great.
Oh, wow.
It's good.
Okay, who wants to go next?
I'll go.
Okay, Shell? Okay.
I'll go. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I think, most common aha moment is with the image-based decisional drills when we talk about the different tool cycling. And one of them is a flashlight. And a lot of people don't think about using the flashlight as a tool. One, for deselection. Think about if you're walking in the parking lot and you just pop that flashlight on just to check and see where your car's at, right? That may be all you need for that person for the, no, yes, no, right? So I think the biggest aha moment that I see is people start carrying a flashlight, because it's not only good for finding things, identifying who's there, but it's also good to see what's underneath the couch. So it has a lot of different uses. But honestly, that might be the most aha moment, is just carry a flashlight. And you will not believe how many people tell me, oh my God, I use that little flashlight all the time in my car, finding keys, but they can also use it for obviously other things. So that's the aha I get.
Good. Who's next?
Mine isn't nearly as
go ahead.
sophisticated. Oh, go on, Donna. Go on.
Oh, no, I apologize. You go ahead.
Mine isn't nearly as sophisticated as Shelley's by any stretch, but I don't know if I made this up or heard this somewhere, but I have this analogy for trigger press that it's like dragging your finger through a jar of peanut butter. So you know how you cannot drag your finger quickly through a jar of peanut butter? It has to go slowly and steady at the same pace from front to back. When I'm teaching new shooters, that's the analogy that they get. And I've had students come from other instructors that is a huge aha moment, that they don't get to the break and jerk the trigger, or they just understand more that you need to have a smooth, slow, steady trigger press, because you can't drag your finger quickly through peanut butter. Now, that's for my beginning shooters. That's different how I would teach a different level differently. But that seems to be really helpful in understanding the speed at which I want them to move their trigger finger from the front of the trigger guard to the rear. So nothing fancy, but that seems to be a big aha moment for a lot of my newbie shooter girlies.
It's a good one.
Just peanut butter.
Peanut butter. So Donna?
Yeah, well, I don't know about you guys, but I'm about hungry now for some peanut butter and some pizza. But my aha moment's going to be I love working with students who have pre-ignition push. And this is something that I came up with. It helped me, and I continue to do this with my students on how to fix pre-ignition push if you're an instructor. So if you have a student finding that front sight and you're watching them pull the trigger and they still got that pre-ignition push, I actually try to trick their brain. So I have them focusing on the front sight. And as they're focusing on the front sight, I have them say front sight, front sight, front sight. Just take the slack out, keep pulling. But they have to keep saying front sight, because you're tricking your brain. It can't think of two things at one time. So they're saying front sight, front sight, front sight, front sight. And then as they're pulling, they're thinking of that front sight and pulling. It gives that surprise break. As soon as they do that, I have them hold the trigger, do not release it, find that front sight. Do you have the front sight? Yes. Okay. Say front sight, and start releasing and pull, do the trigger reset. And it's amazing from their target from this all the way to this. And they're just tricking their brain and not doing the pre-ignition push. And they're just saying front sight, nice and slow, tricking their brain and just slowly pulling that trigger. It's just a little trick, but it works.
It works. That's
Sorry,
good.
can I just ask what the pre-ignition push is? Or
That's if you're anticipating that recoil and you're kind of pushing
anticipating
down.
the break. Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
There's different terminology. I want to do a funny little thing about you've got low ready and then you've got guard. It all means the same thing. Pre-ignition push, or, there's so many terms for meaning that one same thing. There's no set language. Right. So.
Exactly. There isn't. So, well, we're right at the top of the end of our show. It went so quick. So what I want to do is I want to go back around the loop and I want you to tell people how they can find you so that they can, if they're interested in what you've done, where you're at, all of those kind of things. So your state and how do they get to you? So Judy?
You can reach me at Judy at responsiblyarmedradio.com, JUDI. You can find me at San Diego, A Girl and a Gun chapter. Through either of those avenues, you just put my name in and Responsibly Armed Radio or A Girl and a Gun, and it'll pop up on Google. Reach out anytime. Happy to talk to any woman who's interested in shooting and other stuff. That's
there you
easy.
go. Donna?
So come up to Alaska. We'd love for you guys to come up. June, July, August, it's a little warmer. If you go to pointblankak.com, that's the website. You can get my email. We are actually in the process of building a shooting complex, and that's pointblankusa.org. If you'd like to learn more about it, it'll have skeet, trap, archery, shooting bays, campgrounds. So come up here, get your campers, go travel, go fishing, come shoot. So love your support on that too.
That's amazing. Shelley.
Hey guys, you can find me in Georgia. And like I said, we've got a lot of classes across the country in 2021. So go to our schedule and see if we're teaching near you. You can find us at thecompletecombatant.com or thecompletecombatant@gmail.com.
Okay. So, and I'm Amanda Suffolk from Eye on the Target Radio. That's eyeonthetargetradio.com is the website. And as of a couple weeks ago, you can actually find us on-demand video too, as if it's really exciting to watch a radio show on video, but there you go. I am a face maker, so there is that entertainment. So you can catch us on, it's OpsLens, and it's on Roku, Fire Stick, Apple TV, and the OpsLens app, in addition to OpsLens on Facebook. So thanks for joining us on The Armed Society. And ladies, thank you so much. This was a great show, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Night, guys.
Okay, folks, we'll see you next week.
Thank you, Amanda.
Thank you, ladies.